Hi, I'm George of Contour Fitness and Mumble Bump Fit, and today I'm going to go through how intra-abdominal pressure affects your postnatal body. So intra-abdominal pressure is basically the pressure of your insides pushing out against your core. Just like the air in this balloon is pushing out against the actual balloon itself and the balloon's containing it in. So looking at your core is made up of your pelvic floor, which should be strong, should hold everything above it. It holds all of your insides from dropping out. It holds your urine in, it holds your feces in, it holds your pelvic organs up along with connective tissue. And if you've got a weak, what causes a weak pelvic floor is pregnancy. So the weight of a baby, the increased pressure of the baby trying to push out and pushing down on your pelvic floor, and the increased baby weight that you've gained, all of that's adding to the weight on your pelvic floor, which creates a weakness. So guaranteed your pelvic floor is going to be weak after you've had a baby. The second part of your core, which is made up of your abdominal wall, which stretches all the way around the outside of your body, there's a line down the middle called the linea alba, which is a bit of connective tissue that holds the two sides together. That's going to have been stretched, and your abdominal muscles will have separated. So that connective tissue in between your two sides of your abdominal wall will have been stretched, weakened and thinned. Now, because it's done that, it's a weak point in your core. And the top of the core is your diaphragm, which potentially could have been affected because the baby's growing and it may have pushed it out of place. But I just want to look at that stretched midline down the middle of the linea alba and your actual weak pelvic floor. So intra-abdominal pressure, which is where all of your insides are pushing out, if there's an increase in that pressure, it's going to aim, so that increase in pressure is going to have to be transferred somewhere, and that force of that pressure is going to be transferred to the weak points, so that weak midline and your pelvic floor. So things that increase your intra-abdominal pressure, so things that, imagine if I blew some more air into this balloon, that's increasing the pressure in the balloon, which means that it's going to expand even more. But if it was contained, it'd push through the weak points. Things that increase that intra-abdominal pressure are things like high impact exercises such as running, jumping, sprinting, burpees, that sort of movement. Also things like coughing and sneezing, which I know can't be avoided, but they also increase intra-abdominal pressure. And also things like sit-ups and planks and V-sits and crunches, all of those things are increasing your abdominal pressure, which isn't great for healing that weak pelvic floor and also getting a flat stomach. If you've got that separation, you aren't going to get a flat stomach without getting it closed up again. So using this as an analogy, you've got your core here, so you've got your diaphragm on the top, you've got your pelvic floor on the bottom, and around the outside you've got your abdominal wall. If you're jumping around, there's the pressure going to be pushing down, which creates a lot of pressure, and using this smaller little balloon, I'll just show you. So as the pressure increases, it's going to be pushed towards the weak points, which are where there's gaps in my hand. So if I'm jumping, as I'm jumping, that pressure is increasing, and you can see that there's bulging at the top and bulging at the sides, which is basically where you're going to bulge. Your insides are going to bulge out of that gap in your stomach, and they're also going to force their way down through your pelvic floor, which can result in leaking. So it might be incontinence, it might be urine or fecal leakage, it might just be gas leakage, but that's a sign that you've got a weak pelvic floor. And then also, like I said, you're not going to get a flat stomach without closing that gap and trying to minimise putting too much intra-abdominal pressure onto your core. So if you really want a flat stomach and you want a pelvic floor that stops any leakage and stops prolapse happening, so prolapse can be where one of your pelvic organs is actually protruding through your pelvic floor, which is something you really want to avoid after having a baby, because it'll take you straight back to square one. So that's what I'm saying. Intra-abdominal pressure isn't a bad thing, but if you've got a really weak, or you've got weak points of your core, then that intra-abdominal pressure is gonna put force towards those areas, which isn't going to help healing, and it's not going to help your body. And if you want a flat stomach, you're not going to get a flat stomach. So that's how intra-abdominal pressure affects your postnatal body.